And I think the biggest obstacle for many people in Aliyah is fear of the unknown. And the antidote for that is really actually a very simple action item, and I encourage people to do it.
Welcome to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sopinsky, speaking to you live from my home in Susia in the southern Hebron Hills. We have with us today a representative, a leader from Nefesh B'Nefesh, Marc Rosenberg, who I believe is Vice President of Diaspora Partnerships. He is full of knowledge. Of course, my voice goes as soon as I get on the mic. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be talking anyway. Marc, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I just want to tell our listeners today is August 2nd. If I didn't say the date, I don't remember, but it is August 2nd. It is right in we're at the last month of summer here, okay? Just for all of you who don't know, schools begin every year on September 1st. And now there's a frenzy. Everyone's running to get their vacations in. And then you see a lot of traffic, a lot of going on, and a lot of aliyah. This is the time for the young families to come to get their kids up and running and join their colleagues to start school off fresh. Now we have Marc here to tell us what is going on with North American Aliyah. We know there have been some unfortunate, anti-Semitism all over the world, all over the West, ever since October 7th, and it's not getting any better. Now, is that making a difference in Aliyah? We aren't really seeing it, but I wanted to bring Marc on the show and let us know really in terms of numbers and in terms of really what families are coming, what he sees. So, Marc, what can you tell us about the latest?
Thank you for having me, Natalie. I think the one adjective you forgot to describe about August is that it is hot. It is a heat wave here as well, so everyone is trying to find their ways to air conditioning in any place that's possible. So
Yeah.
it is definitely a reminder that it's almost the end of summer and the turning of the calendar even to the high holy days coming upon us. Indeed,
Yeah.
summertime is Aliyah time. 60% of Olim arrive in June, July, and August. As you mentioned, most of those are families because school is out, university is out. It's a transition time for many people. So it's a natural time for them to come. We're expecting almost 2,000 North Americans arriving in July and August, which is really quite remarkable. I would even share in light of the situation that we're currently in with not all airlines flying to Israel. We are almost out of seats on direct flights from the US to Israel. We have some people who are flying indirect because they wanted to come by certain dates, and a few dozen people who wanted to come by the end of August, but are likely going to come in September because the availability of seats is really a beautiful challenge to have that we
Yes.
wish wasn't so. We wish that all the airlines were flying, but with everyone coming and going from their vacations, I know there are thousands of teenagers here in Israel visiting for the summer, and they are flying back onto the program. So it is one of our big stresses over the past few weeks is making sure that everyone who's trying to make Aliyah this summer is going to arrive before the school year starts.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure. I didn't even think about the teenagers. You're just saying it's busy flying back and forth to Israel and
And,
from Israel.
and it's compounded by those people coming on one-way tickets because they have certain dates they want to come and make sure that they are settled in. As you mentioned, the first day of school is September 1st, so a lot of parents with kids want to get here a week before, so the jet lag is off. So there is there's some pressure for people who are getting last minute approval. The documents
Mm.
process can be very technical and demanding, and some people who maybe decided later in the year wanted to come. So they're still waiting. It's August 2nd, and they're waiting for their approval, and they might be able to get those last minute seats, but it's very stressful for them. So we're working as ever to try and reduce the stress and make sure that their arrival in Israel is as smooth as possible.
Yeah, that's an added stress. I wonder, I didn't, that's a good stress. Okay. That's a normal stress. And once you are in Israel, living here a normal life with the rest of us, you're going to have the stress every August getting your vacation in because it's a very short summer here. School's
Well,
going
I
throughout
think,
June.
Natalie, there's two things. One is the point that you just raised, which is about that summer feeling, and especially camps in Israel. I know my brother and sister in New York already probably have signed up for camp next summer. Okay, they summer 2027, registration is already complete. In Israel, long-term planning is 2 weeks in advance. So
Okay.
people sort of move with a very, oh, I think I'm going to go away, and therefore it adds to that pressure time of going away. Thankfully, and you and I have been here for a little while, they're pretty solid now about school starting September 1st. But there were some years, was it going to be August 30th? Was it going to be the 28th or September 2nd? So there was all these pressures. I booked my ticket, but I didn't know when the first day of school starting. It's become a little more organized, a little less of, I guess the key word for people is balagan about these things, but still the pressure because everyone in this country, there are no camps left the last 2 weeks in August. You're really on your own to take care of your kids. People want to travel. They want to soak up those last rays of summer before school starts. And there's a lot of people who just need to still do their school supplies shopping and set up their homes because they are first time sending their kids first day of school in Israel. So it is definitely an emotional time and stressful time.
Yes, it's very exciting. And the Chagim this year, Rosh Hashanah, is very early. It's September 11th. And that's giving you like 10 days. Really, you only have 10 days. So it's very exciting, though. It's a very exciting kind of stress. And nobody's suffering through it alone, okay? All parents are going through it, and we can all suffer together. The same problems as what are we going to make for dinner tonight? Every summer night, every mother is complaining about how many times can we have pancakes. It's a good problem. It's a good problem.
Pasta tonight for us.
Yeah, that's right. Um, a lot of people listening are thinking about Aliyah, but they're afraid. Now, they may be afraid because of rockets and potential war with Iran. They may be afraid of terrorism, which they hear on the news and they've heard for years. And they may be just afraid to start a new life and a new culture with a new language and not really um, being able to, stand on their own 2 feet right away. So I want your comments about that for those people who are in maybe the middle of their lives, let's say 30s, 40s, and what kind of advice you can give them because you meet all kinds of families. And a lot of these families maybe had this dream of Aliyah years ago and they just kept pushing it off. So it seems like it's unattainable. How can you, I guess, make them feel like they can reach it?
Well, you've really articulated three different fears, but I want to say they're really one. And I think the biggest obstacle for many people in Aliyah is fear of the unknown. And the antidote for that is really actually a very simple action item, and I encourage people to do it, is to research and talk about it. If I've had a passion about sailing, which is actually a thing, and I talk about it, but I never actually go to the sea and see about renting a sailboat, there's a difference between the talk and feelings I have and the action about it. So this fear of the unknown is real. Those emotional fears, those worries, they're very legitimate. But what I've seen in the hundreds of people I meet with each year is by actually joining that WhatsApp group of that community to really get a sense of what it's like to live there, or speaking to someone who has kids my own age, or actually speaking to a professional who practices that same profession, and being honest and saying, what do you like? What don't you like? It changes the realness of it because they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's really real. Oh, I didn't know that's a possibility. And it takes this step through between the desire and the reality of it. And I think that's Nefesh B'Nefesh slogan is like live the dream. I think we've been using it for all 24 years of Nefesh B'Nefesh's existence. And sometimes people say it really should be plan the dream, take this dream, this idea of, and really turn it into something that's actionable and planned. So if you have something you're curious about, come to visit and not just travel, enjoy the tourism. Speak to people about what it's like to really have kids in school here. Ask those tough questions. Ask the Aliyah professionals at Nefesh B'Nefesh and say, what is it really like? I've heard this. This is a myth. Is it true? If it's true, we'll tell you. We're very honest about it. About Hebrew is a hard language. It's very hot here, and the neighbors can be bad. These are honest realities, but there are advantages and disadvantages of living in Los Angeles or in Chicago or Boca Raton. The reality is if you look at it with honest eyes, sometimes you're like, oh, I can overcome that, which is really my easiest piece of advice when someone comes to me and say, I'm coming on a pilot trip or I'm looking, is like confront your biggest fear, name it, and research it. And if you can find a solution or an option in Israel, despite that big fear, what's your next fear? What's the next obstacle? And what happens to people is they suddenly like, oh, it turns out that I can actually do that if I work internationally, but I can work the hours, and the tax issue allows me to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, I'm worried about my kids. My kids in sixth grade and Hebrew's not so good. Well, depends what school you choose. So each of those could have a solution. If your kid is on the ice hockey team, okay, there aren't so many solutions for ice hockey teams in Israel for your kid to, that's his dream sport, because it's not very common here. So we can't solve everything, but it turns out that you might be able to find some creative solutions that open the possibility to see if there are other benefits to living here. And that's, I think that there are fears, and talking about them and discussing them is a great way to really walk through them to see they may not be as fearful as you thought.
Interesting. You skipped the very first step about fear, and it's identifying the fear. Now, some people don't even, they can't make that first step. They don't know what they're afraid of. They've been having this dream, this word Israel, for so long. There are people who grow up saying next year in Israel, they don't even know what they're saying. It's like bless you after a sneeze. It's just an expression that they've gotten used to. Now, maybe today, there are a lot more North Americans making Aliyah than when I was growing up in the 1980s. So it's not so hard to do exactly what you just said. Identify this issue, identify that issue. But first, they should come to, I believe, identify what their issues are, and even to know, yes, it's not just a dream. It's not an unattainable dream. I used to say to my parents, well, do you think I'm the only one who made Aliyah? Do you think I'm the only one here? They would be so upset. They were so angry that we moved. We're not the only ones, Mom and Dad. There are, lots of English speakers do move to Israel. There are ulpans all over the country. There are lots of people flying back and forth. So we're not alone. Maybe that's needed. I don't know.
And Natalie, I think you're scratching at a very big insight about psychology of people. I think the fear of change, if I want to name it, is something that is latent in a lot of people. I think that I just spent Shabbat with some lovely 16-year-olds who are spending a free Shabbat in Israel on a teen tour, one of these many tours that are here. And what it reminded me, because you and I are older than the age of 22, is that the Odyssey years, most people between 18 and 22 are these wild years of change. When people leave home and they go to yeshiva or seminary, or they go to college, and there's a lot of change that happens, and they might end by getting married in 22, 25. That's a lot different than the change from what was for me was from 38 to 42. There wasn't a lot of change that happened as you get older. And so people settle into themselves. They've decided the big things, who they're going to marry, where they're going to live. Those are decisions, and therefore they're not confronted by change very often. But we know that change is the way of the world, and technology is always changing. And my kids are yelling at me because I still use credit cards. I don't tap my phone because I'm an old person and do it that way. And there's all this change and therefore we think that we made our big decisions on how to do it. So not only is our spiritual development is really based on change and the changing reality, and our kids are constantly changing as well. But even the adults, we change slower, and we have to make sure that we're adapting to that change. So I think that one of the things that maybe I already hear the bells of Slichot and Rosh Hashanah coming around, where we do that evaluation about, are we where we want to be, and are we heading in the direction where we want to go? So I think that a person has to want to change. But if they have that fear of change, it ties it together with the previous question, then they can really say, okay, when I was 18, 19 in Israel, I had that spark, I had that desire, I had to come back for college, and now it's far away. Maybe I should look into it again, or maybe I should take my family on a summer to visit to Israel, or I should do a sabbatical, or I should look into it. It's the change is very, very hard. And I think there's a common denominator between the 4,500 people who are making Aliyah this year from North America. or the 100,000 from that North Americans have made Aliyah with Nefesh B'Nefesh in the past 24 years, is this that they have this openness to change. They're not they're confronted. They don't always like it. There's the change happens to you, but there's willingness to be a part of this experience that means something bit more. Maybe they want to change because they want their kids to be Israelis, they want to plant in Israel, or they want to start a new career. There's something about that, what you said about that resistance or that subconscious part about it. But I think that the beauty about people replanting themselves or planting themselves when they're emerging adults, when they come here, when they're 18, 19, 20, at those Odyssey years, is that they're open to this new experience and this new opportunity. And Israel's a place of flourishing. It's Eretz HaTorah. There's something goodness here that causes it, and I think that's why people want to come and study here, and they want to connect to that Zionist energy. They want to connect to our Jewish history, and it causes them to reconnect to their Judaism, even if they're living in Teaneck or Newton, Massachusetts, or Toronto, wherever it's going to be. There's that energy that Israel that gives it to them, and some people it touches them deeper, and that's why Nefesh B'Nefesh is really around. Because if somebody wants to take that passion into really practical skills of, oh my goodness, I'm a nurse, how do I get my licensing, or I'm a lawyer, or what do I really do? We're able to really take that energy and turn it into, what is a plan? What's your budget? Right. Let's make sure it's real. Let's make sure that you're going to be able to adjust to this different lifestyle, because it's definitely different. It's definitely a change, but we want to make sure that it's a positive change.
That's fine. That's good, but that's trusting or counting on the 6 million North American Jews to approach you, to approach Nefesh B'Nefesh and say, I'm interested in change. And most of them aren't. Like you said, it's latent, right? Is what you said. The change is inside them, and it's very something that they've shut off, after they got married and got a career, and no more changes, because change is hard for everybody, for all of us, especially as we get older. How do we encourage making a risk like a change? I know that's probably likely not your role, not Nefesh B'Nefesh's goal to, cause people to change, but it's my goal. And I think, had Nefesh B'Nefesh been around when I was a teenager, I would have come a lot sooner. And I wish, and I remember being so angry when I became religious, so angry that my parents never opened my eyes, never introduced me to anything. There wasn't even a Chabad when I grew up. And I was like, and my parents, they had family who was religious. I never knew. Why didn't you tell me? It's so unfair. I had to wait till I was 25. I feel like a child, and everyone's way advanced. Just like if I come to Israel when I was 18 or earlier, I would have had a leg up. My Hebrew would be better. I'd be stronger. I would marry this kind of guy. I'd know this. I'd have this kind of family. But I didn't know. There was no Nefesh B'Nefesh, and there was nothing like that around, at least not in my world. How do we get in front of these Jews who don't know? They're searching, just like I was, for something. I was going to be a dancer. That was my thing. I was going to be a dancer. And all my energy was into musicals and auditions and music. All my energy. As soon as I found out about Israel, I did a total shift. I'm not saying you give up your dreams. You can do them here. There is everything here. But there are people who don't even know Israel's an option. And this is where the Jews are supposed to be. This is our best life. There are things you can do here that you cannot do in diaspora. I'm sorry. You can't just go plant a grapevine in the middle of Wilmington. You don't have the climate. You don't have the partners. You don't have the land. You can't just go grab a vineyard. Here, you have all these little ways of making things happen so quickly and so informally. It's the beauty about a small little country. So how do we, get on the radar of these Jews who could join us, and also, you want the ones who want to come. I don't think we should be like begging people to come. I don't think we should be paying people to come. I think people want to come, they should pay, because it's a big, big privilege to be part of this land.
The big question. It's a really good question, and it's a very deep question. So I like to try and phrase my comments with some statistics because it always allows me to focus and ground it. I think it's remarkable for us to digest and for your listeners to digest that according to the Pew study, about 60% of American Jews have never been to Israel one time. Now, I have family members that have been here multiple times in the past few years. There are synagogues where every member of that synagogue has been to Israel in the past 5 or 10 years, and that means there's synagogues where no one or one or two people have been. So we have to remember that there's a big challenge of Jewish identity. And to echo some of your sentiments, the state of Israel is the greatest project of the Jewish people today. And many amazing things are happening here in people's identity. I always tell me, Natalie, what street do you live on?
We don't have street names.
Okay, so I live on a street in Jerusalem. It is Eliezer Hagadol, as opposed to living in, Darby Lane is where I lived. It's
Right.
very different when
Meaningful.
the
Yeah.
connection that we have to our history here is it's very great because this is ours. This is our history. We are native. We're here. So to try and address your question is that I think that we in Israel have to continue to broadcast and share our story. And first and foremost, that circle of people that are related to Israel, that have visited Israel, that are connected to the news, there has been an earthquake since October 7th that has shook them and drawn them closer to what's happening here on an emotional level. They feel as if they are closer than before because they were already close, and therefore the stories and connection that they have is stronger. And therefore, if we can keep it as not just symbolic, but person to person, the music. 20,000 people paid to see Yishai Ribo last year in Madison Square Garden. Okay? I can tell you about 80% of people do not understand Hebrew who attended him, but yet were touched by his music because the only English words he said the whole night, I happened to be there, was Am Yisrael Chai. He didn't speak English. Yes, that's my point. He didn't speak English. But the place was rocking with the energy that's coming from the creativity of the Jewish people in Israel. A French immigrant. He was from France and immigrated and learned Hebrew and wrote these beautiful songs that weave together our prayer book and our history all together. So it is inspiring and connecting people and inspiring their lives. Another point, many families that are coming are saying that they are seeing what the young people in Israel are doing, the way they are serving their country, whether it's in national service, Shut Leumi, or in the army or through volunteering, and they want their children to be like that. And they're saying, how do I raise kids to be like that? Some of them because they want their kids to come and move here. Some of them want to take that energy back. So we need to keep on sharing the ingredients of what we are doing to connect to our people, connect to our land, connect to our language, and share that because that is inspiring people to say, you know what? I made my choices. I have to take care of family, but I want my kids. I want them to be part of that story. I want to be a part of it. I want to give. I want to donate, but I want to be a part of that story. But you're asking a very, very deeper question for those people who don't even know. And I think that's why the challenge, and especially in the political environment that's in North America, regarding this identity issue that's swirling around in postmodernism and progressivism, a lot of different challenges there. There really is a lack of knowledge on it. And I think, therefore, one of the things we really need to do is meet each other. And if these people are not going to visit Israel because it's not on their priority list, then we need to find ways to bring Israel to them and tell them why they have to make that trip there. Because many people are visiting Italy and France and they're traveling. And because they've heard a certain narrative on the radio or they have certain impressions of what it must be in Susia or in Jerusalem or wherever it's going to be, that having and inviting their homes. And I've heard countless stories. There's a remarkable Oleh in his retirement as a professional decided he wanted to do something for the Jewish people. And Eric decided that he was going to bring athletes to Israel and show them what life is like here. And many of these are non-Jewish athletes. He met them in his career and like with Shaquille O'Neal and lots of other NBA athletes. And he brings the athletes to Israel. And what he told me is that when he brings them to people's homes and they sit with these kids, and sometimes they'll play Xbox with them or just, with the kids there. And then once the war starts, they want to call that family that they met and they say, I want to make sure that family that I met and sat at their dining room table and had ice cream with is okay because I've seen their home. We connected to that personal story. So I think that it's easy to say they should all come visit Israel, and I don't think because of the cost or fears. But if we can do a project that we're going to show people what this story was, it's always been that way. The story of those people who came to visit on the kibbutz, some of them decided to join it, even though it was only a small percentage of people who actually were living on kibbutz. They wanted to join this project. They wanted to join the story because they understand more the diversity of the people that are here, the magic that's happening in English or in Hebrew or French or Russian or whatever it is, the diversity of the people. It changes when we can connect and bring that identity. Because the last thing I want to say is that too often people think, especially in North America, Judaism as a religion. And they'll say, "Oh, I'm not religious." Okay? And in Israel, okay, 99% of Israelis have a Passover Seder, or some of them have bread at their Passover Seder because it is part of our Jewish tradition to pause on the night of the 15th of Nisan to say, we're remembering that we went as a nation, the nation was born on this night. We storytell about the transformation about that. We pause on the 5th of Iyar to say, we're going to have a barbecue because the state of Israel is declared. And people do in different ways. So if we can bring them into that story, I'm confident that we'll have a stronger connection, we'll have a stronger identity, we'll have more people visiting, we'll have more people making Aliyah, we have more people who want to be a part of that story.
You're telling us all to be ambassadors, basically, right?
We are ambassadors, but
Yeah.
too often we outsource it. We outsource it to, oh, we have a foreign minister. It is especially now with WhatsApp and with our groups, the person to person is that ability for people in your
Right.
family WhatsApp groups to share the positive, to share stories, and to let people ask questions and let people have that connectivity. And people will be inspired. Not right away always, but when they're ready to wake up, they're like, oh, I think I know someone I could ask that question to because my mom, the social worker, always says what it's a line is that you can't want it more than the other person in the
Right.
change. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
you can say we're here, this change, it's awesome, but they have to be ready for it. So what's great about the Jewish holidays when we say next year in Jerusalem, so someone could say, you know what, I'm gonna show a picture of my friend's family who's in Jerusalem, and they're all they moved there 2 years ago, and you can always make it real and make it part of the story because some people they wake up when they're 25, and some people they wake up when they're 45 or 75. They have these different epiphanies about what's important to them. I have no judgment about that, but it's that it's being there because for me, part of the Jewish story is these prophets screamed and screamed and screamed in the Bible, and some people listened and some people didn't. So
Hmm.
we are able to be the good prophets that are saying, now's a great opportunity. Come join us. Let's do it through positivity. We have a great story to tell. We're building great things. We're solving problems. We're inventing new things. We're creating new communities. We're redeeming the desert. We're making it bloom. There's great things that can happen. And you could be part of that. You could be a part of that story. Is an incredible invitation to be a part of it. And some people will opt in, and some people will say, "No, it's not the time." And some people will say, "I'm changing the channel yet," but they know that channel is there. And I value that.
All right. Thank you. What do you tell people? This is a little practical, but when they want to move to Israel and they live in a Jewish community, let's say, I don't know, Toronto or something, and they want to live in a house with a garden and they want this and they want that, and they have all these little specific demands. Yet they, don't know a word of Hebrew. They don't really know too many people here. They want to maintain their lifestyle. I mean, I hear people like this, and I almost want to say to them, look, you can't be so demanding. You are going to be an immigrant. How do you guide people? Okay, a lot of these people who are coming here from North America have achieved a pretty high level of success, material wealth. Okay. They own their own home. They have two cars. They have money in the bank. They have the best seat at shul, and they're going to come here and they're kind of going to be like starting over a little bit. And some of them don't want to. How do you encourage people like that? And how do we, um, that's the bulk of the people who are connected. People like that.
So I think yes, there's 2 points there. I want to separate them. One is I think it's really important, Natalie, that you use the word immigrant. So it's a really hard because we have this magical word called aliyah and oleh. Ooh, it's spiritual. It's great. And it sort of it deconnotates all the words of an immigrant. And some of us have memories with that person in our synagogue that had that funny accent and didn't really dress the same way as other people. And I'm like, that's me. I'm the guy with the accent who's wearing an Eddie Bauer shirt that stands out because no one else is wearing khakis like I am. And this is in my community. So you have to. It's important for people to digest that word. About this word, I think I, I think you raised this interesting question, and I raised it as a conversation. It's hard to do it in a non-judgmental way, but I try to do it as best I can. And it's the word comfort. I used to think that America was all about the pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And therefore, Americans were, as Alex de Tocqueville said, Americans are a constant state of self-applause, of celebration. They want to have happiness. That's what they want. I think there's an element that's true about American society, and again, Canada is a different place. But I am now, as an observer of the American Jewish community, I think it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of comfort. But it's interesting, the word comfort is very subjective, and everyone has a different sense of what is comfort. So what I encourage people is to think about what makes their life comfortable, okay? And to look about what are some of those comforts that they are going to give up, or something that they can't give up for coming. So some people say, okay, we might be able to make it with one car instead of two. Some people say, oh, Amazon doesn't deliver everything, but I can live without it. But the point behind it is that there are comforts that they don't realize they have given up living in North America, okay? Or uncomfortable things that they do. For example, if you want to go to university in Israel, okay, it costs, without making Aliyah, $4,000 a year for tuition, okay? Let's say renting an apartment is $11,000 and you want to fly back to visit your family, that's $2,000. For like $18,000, you have a year worth of university in Israel. It costs a lot more to go to university in North America. And you have to save up for that for all of your children. And therefore, the cost of Jewish day school is a price point that you're paying for the comforts that you have. There's advantages and disadvantages. So people, I encourage them to honestly understand what are the comforts that they really, really want, the comforts that they're investing in the Jewish identity of their children, because they want them to be in a bubble. They want them to be in a Jewish community that's very, very strong and push out secular ideas, or they want a balance of those ideas. Those are hard things that they're paying for to invest in those things. Whereas here, the cost of living is different. Sometimes there's things that are less, sometimes they're more. And another factor, Natalie, to share is that house in that English-speaking community here is expensive because English speakers drive up the price in those neighborhoods just as much if you want to find a house in Passaic, or if you're looking for certain neighbors in Los Angeles. If you want to live in the heart of those Anglo communities, the prices are very high and you're paying a premium for that. So you have to decide, will I live in a smaller place so that I can be close to those people? Or am I going to decide to find a job that's going to earn more so that I could do that? Or I'm going to rent instead of buy? There's always this give and take that goes into those factors. But it returns to me is that you have to think about what are the comfort points? What are the creature comforts that I'm going to give up? It goes back to that hockey rink. Oh, I need a place that I can go skating. So you're going to decide to live in there are only really 2 hockey rinks in this country. So you're going to decide not to live in Malaya Dumim because that's far away from the hockey rinks. You're going to choose places based on those comforts, and you're going to look at it honestly to say, okay, what was I trying to keep up with the Joneses? You know this, but I'm sharing with your listeners. Cars aren't status symbols in Israel. Okay, it's becoming it a little bit with some of these Teslas and smart cars, but no one's like, there's no one like, you have a fancy car, you don't have a fancy car here. It's not often a thing here. In fact, most popular dad in Gan, there was bring your parent to Gan kindergarten in Israel. The most popular dad was the garbage collector. This lovely Sephardi guy who lives a few buildings down from me. And I asked many people who are in Jewish day school how many garbage collectors are currently sending their kids to your Jewish day school. There's a different socioeconomic mix here, and professions the statuses are very different. So you have to lean in with an honest appraisal. Is that what is your earning power going to buy here? What are the comforts that you need to cling to? and what can you make work? Because when you're honest about the advantages to living here, you'll get a green light about it.
No.
And for some people, it's going to be an obstacle, and they say, you know what? I can't live that far away from my family, or this is too much for me. And it could be a recipe where they say, now's not the time for me.
Well, that really rubs me the wrong way, with these North Americans saying, I need to be comfortable, I need to be comfortable, soft landing. Why do North Americans need everything to be soft and comfortable? Like grow
So
up.
I want to say it differently. Natalie, I want to agree with you, but I want to say it differently with you. I understand the desire for softness. I understand it. I think it's a human desire not to be uncomfortable. But I don't think it's a Jewish value to be comfortable. If you ever get comfortable, then we say, you know what, I gotta help more people. I can give more tzedakah. I can do more. This American value of that, I think partially from capitalism, okay, and it's seeped into the Jewish community as well, is that the most important thing is that I am comfortable. I don't want to call this person, I'm going to text me because it's not comfortable. I don't make a shiva call because I don't feel comfortable doing it. The Judaism it's something about Judaism says we're supposed to do things that are uncomfortable and do things that are hard. And so I see the other side that I don't want to do it, but we're supposed to raise people to be able to do hard things. And I think the best example is my brother-in-law, who's 40 and is about to go to do reserve duty again. Okay, even though he's got 4 kids, okay, and a full-time job, but there's something uncomfortable that needs to be done, and he's going to go do it because Am Yisrael needs him to do it, and he's willing to do it. And I think that that's one of the biggest gaps. And this is an observation, and I say this with love, and not everyone in America Jews like this. It's this comfortableness is a point. I just see it as a human desire to it's cold outside. I don't want to go out and have to do it, but someone needs the food to be delivered. Someone had a baby. I'm gonna go do it because it's the hard thing that needs to get done. And I think that that's one of the values that we're rubbing up against. That in people saying, is this an option for me to even investigate to see whether Aliyah is for them or spending time in Israel is for them? That comfort level.
Wow, you're right, and it hurts to hear that because it's true, and I think it's holding a lot of people back. And it isn't a Jewish value, and it can't be something that's glommed on to people and become like part of their skin. It's ugly. Okay, it really is. Well, why do you want to be soft? Why do you want to be self-absorbed? Why? What's community? Community
So I
is
think
doing.
people's community gets shrunk. It gets shrunk to something very small. I want to take care of my family, and again, I understand the human nature about it, and they work. We're tzedakah is supposed to give to your family first, and then your community. My Rambam talks about that. I think that I think what Zionism is about, and this is why for me Zionism is really Judaism. It's all wrapped up in it, but is this wake up call that something larger is happening than just my community in New Rochelle, New York, or or Boynton Beach. There's something larger, and I want to compliment something that was awoken in October 7th was something's large. The amount of volunteering, people donating things, people want to do things, people want to send meals to people, people come over to pick vegetables. There are people that are they realize there's this tension, but it's just this. Again. I like your podcast because we talk about challenging topics and we're being very honest here. Is that one of these friction points on how American Jews and Israeli Jews are different? We have a lot of similarities. Is how we react to this idea of comfort, and it's not black or white, and it's a spectrum of how people respond to it. But overall, it's this point, and therefore, I just see the goodness behind it with the sadness that sometimes it's holding them back from doing greater things for the Jewish community around the world.
Yeah, well, if there's something we can do to puncture that, I would be very happy to know what it is, because um, there are a lot of people out there that would really be not just a great contribution to us here, but we would totally benefit their lives as well. And they're missing out. They're just missing out. I was missing out. And I'm sure and I think you know that you talk to anybody who's made Aliyah, and are people sorry? No, they're not sorry. They're probably sorry they didn't come sooner.
Yeah.
So what do we
So
do?
I want to share one of my most inspiring stories, and I actually want to mention one of my childhood friends was diagnosed a few years ago with ALS, and he has started this foundation called Impossible Dreams, and it's got me thinking because he has this impossible dream. He wants to find a cure. He's working to find a cure for ALS, and it got me thinking about it. But there's a wonderful story, not story, a Devar Torah from Rav Shapiro, who started the Daf Yomi. It says about Avram Avinu when Hashem tells him and gives him the covenant. He says the verse, I have to remember it. It says, I want you to go outside and count the stars. And he says to him, so too will be your people. So it's a really weird verse. It just goes on to say is like, he tells them to go outside and count the stars, and so too would be your people, it should be. Why is this extra, and he said to him there? It's an extra weird verbiage there. So Rav Shapiro says this, okay, is that Hashem said to Abraham, go out and count the stars. Natalie, is it possible to count the stars? Is it possible? It is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But yet Abraham heard Hashem's voice and went out and started going 1, 2, 3. And Hashem said to him, so too will be your people. They're going to try and do impossible things. There are going to be people who are going to say, oh, people said it's impossible. I'm going to try and do it. And I think, and it's that to focus on as we're wrapping up here, that final thing is that rather than have the frustration about it, that people aren't coming, that 99% of American Jews are not making Aliyah this summer. Okay, it's a reality. Less than 1% is coming. So I just wanted to get this part of it that is like for us to realize that in our DNA from Avinu are people who wish to do the impossible things. It's incumbent upon us to find those ways to show those people that we are doing impossible things.
Okay, that's hopeful, and I thank you. And anyone who's listening today to this program, please contact me if you have any questions about your own Aliyah or your hopes for Aliyah, and you have the dream of Aliyah and you want to make it a reality. Nefesh B'Nefesh is the one huge organization that really makes a big effort all across North America and Canada, right? And they're doing new programs all the time. And they've come a long way. I came on Nefesh B'Nefesh in 2005. I think we were your second group or something. And it's just grown and grown. And you can reach me at Natalie at Israel News Talk Radio, and I'll pass on your comments and questions to Mark and the team at Nefesh B'Nefesh. And when you do make Aliyah, when you open a file, you get your own advisor with Nefesh B'Nefesh, and they really hold your hand through the process and even help you, find a language course and find a good place to live. And there are a lot of things for any move, but I don't think there's any organization in the world that does what Nefesh B'Nefesh does. Like if you're going to move to Italy, you're going to move to Germany, I don't think there's someone holding your hand. And it's really great. Plus, there's Nefesh B'Nefesh, but there's also me and all the other English speakers who live here, and we'll help you too, because there are a lot of us. So I want to thank you all for listening. Mark, thank you so much for joining us for this very important time as we end summer. And again, anyone with questions, please contact me at Natalie at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. And we're off.
Hey everyone, to make sure you can get access to all of our interviews, make sure to hit the subscribe button on both our YouTube and Rumble channels. Your click makes us all stronger. Thanks.